Good morning, this is Francesca Evans from LymeOnline bringing you all of this week's top stories from the Lyme Regis area. The Woodruff School in Lyme Regis has been reassuring staff, pupils and parents this week after a group of students returned from a ski trip in Italy, sparking some concerns about the possible spread of coronavirus. Several schools across the UK have closed or sent home students after they returned from trips to northern Italy, where an outbreak of the virus has been reported this week. Year 10 students and staff from Woodruff returned from their annual ski trip this week, but have been advised that the area they visited has been listed as Category 2, meaning they do not need to undertake any special measures unless they show symptoms. Routes taken by those on the ski trip were at least 100 kilometres from any of the affected areas. Head teacher Dan Watts said they had taken advice and followed all appropriate government measures at this time. No students have been sent home, but the school will continue to monitor the advice being given and will take appropriate action when necessary. The Foreign Office is now warning against all non-essential travel to several towns in northern Italy, which have been isolated by the Italian authorities. Anyone returning from these towns has been asked to self-isolate to stop the spread of the virus, and those who have recently travelled north of Pisa are also advised to stay at home for 14 days if they develop flu-like symptoms. If you have recently travelled to a high-risk area, or if you've been in contact with someone who has and you develop symptoms, the NHS advises that you should not go to a doctor's surgery or hospital. Instead, call NHS 111 for advice. The government's latest travel advice can be found on the website shown on screen now. According to the latest figures released by the World Health Organization, there are now more than 80,000 confirmed cases of coronavirus around the world and about 3,000 deaths. A total of 33 countries are now affected, with most cases still in China, where the virus was first discovered in Wuhan in December. Lyme Regis lifeboat crew has been showered with praise following a BBC documentary this week. The Lyme Regis crew featured in this week's episode of Saving Lives at Sea, a series following real-life rescues carried out by RNLI teams up and down the country. Local volunteers Tim Edwards, Nikki Williams, Murray Saunders and Andy Butterfield gave emotional interviews as footage of the dramatic rescue of two teenage boys was shown. The 14-year-olds were swept some 200 metres out to sea from Axmouth Harbour last June. Here's a clip from the successful rescue.
You okay?
Yes!
Okay. Yeah, neutral almost.
Yes!
Okay. No, you're okay, you're okay.
Gotcha.
Got you both. Just take your time now, relax, alright?
You lads alright? Yeah. You did the right thing, you stayed together. Yeah, that's the most important thing, alright? If you'd separated, we would have had to have found two separate people, so you did the right thing, you did nothing wrong.
If you missed Wednesday's episode of Saving Lives at Sea, you can still catch up on BBC iPlayer. Regulations surrounding dogs on Lyme Regis beaches has become one of the most contentious local issues of recent years, but now concerns are being expressed about dogs in the town cemetery. Speaking at a recent town council meeting, a local resident said incidents of dogs fouling on and around graves in the cemetery were vile and disgusting, adding that this was a much bigger concern than dogs being allowed on beaches. The Mayor of Lyme Regis, Councillor Brian Larkham, said the council was actively looking at how to address this issue. A sprung gate is now being installed at the Elizabeth Close entrance of the cemetery to stop dog owners allowing their pets to run into the burial ground without a lead, and the council was also looking at installing low-level fencing along pathways. A public consultation on Dorset Council's Public Spaces Protection Order, which covers regulations for dogs on beaches and in the cemetery, is still open and can be found on the website shown on screen now. The new rector of the Golden Cap Benefits, which includes the parishes of Lyme Regis and Charmouth, was installed as special service on Monday evening, with the Bishop of Sherborne, the Right Reverend Karen Gorman, officiating. The Reverend Chris Martin was inducted by the Archdeacon of Sherborne before a congregation of about 200 at St Andrew's Church in Charmouth, including a coach party from his former parish in East Devon. A number of welcome messages were delivered by community leaders, including the Mayor of Lyme Regis, Councillor Brian Larkham, Royal British Legion President Philip Evans, and Councillor Michaela Ellis, representing St Michael's Primary School. The Reverend Martin, who is married with 3 grown-up daughters, will make his new home in Charmouth. Originally from Wales, he is a keen rugby fan, and as he was introduced to members of the congregation, the choir sang the Welsh national rugby anthem. One of the Reverend Martin's first tasks will be to oversee the appointment of a new vicar at St Michael's Parish Church in Lyme Regis to replace the former incumbent, the Reverend Jane Skinner. And now for local sport. Lyme Regis Football Club will be looking for a new first-team manager next season. The Seasiders' current boss, Gerard Hitchcock, has confirmed that he intends to stand down at the end of the current campaign due to family commitments. Hitchcock has played all of his football with Lyme Regis, apart from a short spell with Bridport, having scored 147 goals for the club. As player-manager of Lyme Reserves for 12 years, he delivered a number of honours for the club, including back-to-back Football Express Cup victories in 2017 and 18. He has managed the first team for 2 seasons, leading them to 5th place in the Devon and Exeter Premier Division, the club's highest ever position. Hitchcock informed the committee of his decision this week, but said he hoped to continue his connection with the club by staying on as a committee member. Club chairman Howard Larkham praised Hitchcock's commitment to the club and hoped his association with the Seasiders would last for many years to come. All 3 Lyme teams were left kicking their heels again last week due to the wet weather, but they should be back in action on Saturday. The first team travelled to Premier rivals Bampton, while the reserves are home to a Pottery, but this game has been moved to Axminster's all-weather pitch because the Davy Fort ground is still too wet to play on. The Rovers are away to Charge Rangers in Perry Street Division 2. Perry Street Division 1 rivals Uplyme and Charmouth did get a game in last weekend, but both suffered heavy defeats. The 2 village teams, both entrenched at the bottom of Division 1 on 4 points each, meet at Venlake tomorrow in a crucial relegation battle. Thanks for watching LymeOnline's video news bulletins. Have a great week in Lyme Regis.